Hello, I'm Bruce Rusk from the University of British Columbia. This video is the first of a series introducing key concepts about data collection for From the Ground Up, Buddhism and East Asian Religions, a research project sponsored by a partnership grant from the Social Science and Humanities Research Council of Canada and based at the University of British Columbia. For more about the project, visit our website at FROGBEAR.org. Our researchers will be collecting materials related to East Asian religions, and including many of them in an open access online collection that will be accessible via the UBC Library's repository. Today, I'll be introducing some key concepts for planning and executing data collection so that the process goes smoothly and the end result is high quality material that is useful for the original researchers and for others. Have you ever come back from a holiday with a folder full of photos that you never sorted through, or opened a box of old snapshots and tried to remember when and where they were all taken? With digital cameras, including the ones on our phones, it's very easy to take lots and lots of pictures and videos, but hard to give them all labels to remind you what they're about, and even harder to make them understandable to someone else. This video, and the others in the series, provide some ideas and guidelines for making sure that what you bring back from a research trip is not a disorganized pile of photos, but something that's easy to access and share. So what you produce will become a resource not just for you and your cluster, but also for others in the future, whether they're researchers, teachers, students, or anyone interested in East Asian religion and culture. This will take some planning and work up front. And you should also plan to spend a significant amount of time after a visit, preferably as soon afterward as possible, working on the data you collect. As a general rule, we expect that it will take you as many hours to prepare the material for the online collection as you spent collecting it in the field. Ideally, time should be set aside during a cluster trip for all participants to work on this. The material in the online collection is grouped into records, much like the records in a library card catalog, that contain two parts, data and metadata. Data is the material you collect, such as photographs, videos, and audio recordings. Metadata is information about it, such as title, description, location, and details about how it was collected. In general, the data is what researchers and other users, such as classroom teachers, will be using, while the metadata is what they will use to find it and begin to make sense of it. Both elements are essential to making the material you collect useful as a research resource. Records in the collection are groups of files, or sometimes a single file, and the metadata that accompanies them. So it will be helpful to have an idea of what files you would want to group together into a record. There's no hard and fast rule about what should go in a record, but the two basic principles are, first, that the files should all be closely related, for example, representing the same thing, such as a single building, a sculpture, or a book. Second, they should be manageable in scale, usually not more than 10 or 15 files. Files can be photographs, videos, audio files, and other documents such as PDFs or spreadsheets, but most will be media files like photographs. How much you group together as a record will depend a little bit on how much data you have. For example, if you visit a temple complex and have one photograph each for the 10 buildings there, you could group all 10 photographs together as one record. In that case, the title of the record would be the overall name of the site, and you could list the individual buildings in the description. But if you have 10 photographs of each of the 10 buildings, you could create a record for each of the buildings and use the name of each building as the title of its record. And if you have another photograph that shows an overview of the whole complex, you could give that a record of its own, and in the item description, you could reference those other records. When users encounter your data in the online collection, they'll see the title and a thumbnail that represents the first file in the record. When they open the record, they'll be able to access the other files and read the metadata you've created. So the material you group together should be closely connected, and you should be able to give it a clear, specific title and description. Some things will already have a title of their own, for example, a book or a painting. For others, you'll have to create your own descriptive title. In either case, the title is one of the key ways that users will find your material. But sometimes they'll be searching for key terms that are not in the title, but will help direct them to your record. These are subject keywords, much like the subject keywords in a library card catalog. For example, if your record has photos of a temple in Taipei, the title might just be the name of the temple, but if the words Taipei and Buddhism appear in the keywords, someone searching for Buddhism and Taipei will find it. Keywords like these are pretty easy to add after you've been working in the field, but some other metadata is best collected on the spot. For example, we need to keep track of who created every piece of data. In the case of a photo or video, that's the person who is holding the camera. That's because the person who creates a recording is the copyright owner. So when we put the file into our database, we need to confirm that we have their permission to use it. Another vital piece of data is the date and time, but fortunately, that's automatically recorded by all digital devices. Just make sure that the clock is set correctly to the local time. It can also be useful to have a precise record of the location of each item. Some devices, like smartphones and certain cameras, have a built-in GPS function that writes the precise location into the photos they take. Others don't, but there are many smartphone apps that can keep a record of the phone's location, and you can use this to track the position of the things you document. So far, the information I've mentioned is all pretty mechanical: creator, time, and location. But with just this information, you'll still have that disorganized pile of photos. To make your files useful, you'll need to add more. You might need to create a suitable title, or if the thing, like a book or inscription, already has a title of its own, you need to make sure that you've recorded it accurately. You'll also have to create a useful description that outlines what the object is, why it's important, and something about its context. And you'll need to come up with a list of relevant keywords. There's no way you can do all of this in the field at the same time as you're taking photos or filming videos. But if you don't record the basic information by the end of the day, or at least the end of the trip, there'll be no way to keep track of everything and create accurate metadata. So here are some methods for ensuring that you end up with high-quality records with the least amount of work. First, and most importantly, this takes a team. At the very least, there should be one person taking photos and another taking notes. Ideally, the team should have at least 3 people. First, a director, preferably a scholar who can identify what will be of interest to record. Second, a photographer. And finally, a note-taker, who produces basic notes in real time that will be used to produce the final version that goes into the online repository. There may be other people on the team for jobs like lighting, holding up artifacts to photograph, and taking different kinds of notes. For example, one person could record time and location, while another records more interpretive details. A very useful tool for data collection in the field is a simple analog device, a whiteboard. When you collect thousands of photographs in a continuous stream and look through them later, it can be hard to place individual photos in a sequence and link them up to the notes you have. One easy way to bridge these two sets of material is to photograph a whiteboard, or just a piece of paper with an annotation on it. This has 2 effects. First, when you scroll through the thumbnails in a large folder of photos, the plain white photos of the board stand out and act as bookmarks. They separate each sequence of pictures into a distinct group. Second, they can record key information so that you can link it up to the notes you take in the field. What exactly you record on the whiteboard will vary a little. For example, on a visit in the summer of 2017, where we collected hundreds of photographs of inscriptions and temple sites in China, we assigned a number to each inscription and took first a photo of the inscription with the number written on the whiteboard, then another photo of the inscription itself. Without this, it would have been very difficult to keep track of the hundreds of similar-looking stones. In other cases, you might write something like, "Entrance to such and such a temple, looking north," to place the photograph. The photos of the whiteboard are for your own use in preparing the data, and they won't go into the final records in the repository. Other ways to record on-the-fly metadata include photographing a close-up of a notebook page, or taking a picture of a site map with a pen pointing to the current location. Okay, you've done it. You've taken a great set of photos or videos and detailed notes. What happens next? The next step is to create the metadata that will accompany your material in the online collection. To do this, you'll fill in a spreadsheet based on the template provided by FROGBEAR. It's important to keep the structure of this file intact because the UBC library, which is hosting the collection, needs it to be in this format. Thanks for watching this video. Other videos in the series will discuss techniques for producing useful photographs and correctly formatted metadata. For more about the data and metadata requirements for the project, visit our website at frogbear.org.